There's game one of a two-game set here. This is Mike Brown's first game as head coach of the New York Knicks. Scary situation in the preseason early for New York here. Watch Josh Hart. He goes to the ground in pain, and as he goes to the ground, he throws the balls into the stands. He's clearly in a lot of discomfort here. He actually would be ejected from the game for throwing that ball, but of course the concern of injury is first and foremost here. But then you got Jalen Brunson picking up right where he left off with the floater. Karl Anthony Towns tracking down that loose ball for the slam. Some big stuff there from Karl Anthony Towns. We should mention Mitchell Robinson was that fifth starter for the Knicks in this game. A few minutes later, Mikal Bridges goes for the steal. A little reverse layup the other way. A solid opening game here for New York's core group. How about the 76ers? And really by the 76ers, we're talking about rookie VJ Edgecombe. Edgecombe cuts back door. He misses, but he's fouled. He tried to send a message to Mitchell Robinson there. We saw a whole lot of that at Baylor. Look how high he gets up. But that was really the bright spot here for the 76ers. Edgecombe showing his range. That would be the only three that the 76ers made in the first half. 1 of 20 from three in the first half. Oh, we are back, baby. Tyrese Maxey gets inside, tough up and under. Maxey finishes with 14, but it's the Knicks that win this one easily. Let's welcome in our senior writer, Brian Windhorst, who saw that show live in Abu Dhabi. Our front office insider, Bobby Marks, NBA champ Kendrick Perkins here as well. Brian, you were in the room where it happened, so I want to start with you. Your takeaway from just this one preseason game.
Well, Josh Hart leaving with injury was obviously a worrisome thing for the Knicks. They also did not have OG Anunoby in this game, who was out with a sprained hand. He's day-to-day. The Knicks said that Josh Hart didn't come back in the game because he was ejected, not because he had the injury. So we'll see how that might change over the next couple of days. Josh Hart already dealing with a finger injury that's going to bother him throughout the season. So that injury was probably the headline for the Knicks in this game. One thing I would point out, VJ Edgecombe has really impressed his 76ers teammates over the last week and a half at training camp. And he didn't shoot the ball great in this game, but he played a lot of point guard. He had 14 points. He had 6 rebounds. He is going to get a ton of minutes, and he is going to be really probably something to pay attention to, because Joel Embiid and Paul George are not ready to play yet. They were missing 5 rotation players for tonight's game, so I wouldn't pay too much attention to the final score. And by the way, the final tally, 3 of 35 3-point shooting for the 76ers. But the good news is that the heaves at the end of the halves did not count. So they have that going for them.
How do I follow that up there, Malika? I think,
you take a 3.
I think for me there's 2 things. Yeah, you do. There is 2 things here, and it started with what New York did with their opening lineup. Pacom Dadier, their first-round pick, started in there, and why that's relevant is because he could be the odd man out when you look at this Knicks roster. They're going to need to clear out some money if they want to keep Malcolm Brogdon and Landry Shamet, who they've signed in the offseason to kind of booster that bench. He certainly struggled shooting the ball 0-5 from 3. The second thing is Deuce is loose, right? Deuce McBride, 12 points coming off the bench. Certainly is going to be an important factor for New York this season as far as where that bench goes.
And you mentioned Pacom Dadier. He would have to be moved before October 18th, right, if they were going to be making that sort of move. Perk, I know it's very early in terms of Mike Brown's tenure as Knicks head coach, but I'm hearing even in the preseason, you're already spying something on this new look team.
I'm Kendrick Perkins, better known as Big Perk, and nothing gets past me. Freeze! Just when you thought it did get past me, there I am. I spy a problem. I spy it all. Carry the hell on. Well, y'all know down in Texas, they have this saying called peak game from a player's position. And damn it, I know it's preseason, but I'm peeping things from the New York Knicks in their first preseason game. New coach, new life, new system offensively. Look at Jalen Brunson right here. Look at him outlet the ball. They're playing with pace. They were one of the slowest playing teams offensively last season. Here's the one that got me up off my couch while I was watching. Watch the rebound in here. Now look at Karl Anthony Towns, the big fella, running up the floor, using with those size 22s, getting up in transition. This is how Mike Brown wants to play. This is going to help and benefit the Knicks. getting stops, getting out and run, playing with pace. They were one of the slowest paced teams in the league last season, and you could tell Mike Brown has been emphasizing that in training camp because they hit the ground running today.
Yeah, it was notable how fast they were playing even in this first preseason game. For the 76ers on the other side of all of this, there's only so much to take away knowing that there was no Embiid, no George, no Grimes, no Lowry in this game here for Philadelphia, Bobby. But if you're looking at the silver lining of this for the 76ers, what's your takeaway knowing that this is not the roster that they imagined?
Well, I mean, listen, Tyrese Maxey is going to be as good as anybody, any guard out there. I think we saw the flashes, at least in the first half here. And I know VJ Edgecombe certainly struggled here, but that backcourt is something to build off. And when they get back to the States, they'll have Quentin Grimes waiting for him, who signed that one-year qualifying offer on Wednesday to help solidify that backcourt. That won't have Jared McCain for at least the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, Malika, I think the mood around the Sixers right now is don't judge them at the moment. They're going to try to improve the players that they have, with them and active, and they're going to wait for their team to come together. They are optimistic that Joel Embiid is making progress. I'm going to be honest with you. When I heard that, I was like, I don't know what to say. Like, I'm going to report that that's what they said. But obviously, you just got to be careful about trusting anything there. But he does look like he's in very good shape. I spoke to him yesterday. He is in good spirits. Paul George is out working out on the court in pregame and around practice. There is signs that these guys are going to come back. But if you're a Sixer fan, I could totally understand why you're saying, I got to wait and see it with my own 2 eyes. But They are in the Eastern Conference. They do not have to get off to a dynamite start to make the playoffs. They just have to be healthy at the right time. They are preaching patience, and they are preaching to give them time. This team will come together.
I don't think anyone wins a championship in October or November, but I don't know that people are judging the 76ers based off of what they see right now. I think it's a judgment of the culmination of what they've seen over the last season up leading into now, Perk. Am I reading that correctly?
You're right. Seeing is believing, and like Wendy said, that's what he reported. What they said, but nobody want to hear they sweet nothings. We need to see it. We want to see Paul George on the floor. We want to see Joel Embiid back on the floor, not only just healthy and in shape, but playing with the right type of mindset and showing that he wants to be there. Right? He the one that went on the rant this offseason, when he sat down and did an interview. So, again, we need to see it. We don't want to hear anything from the 76ers. They need to show us.
I think that you speak for many 76ers fans here right now, Kendrick Perkins. Brian Windhorst, it is rapidly approaching midnight in Abu Dhabi. Get to bed. We appreciate around the league. Let's start with the Wolves. Anthony Edwards, he had goals in year 6.
I don't really think I'm going to be able to win Defensive Player of the Year. I got 2 of the best defenders on my team, so it's going to be hard for me to win Defensive Player of the Year. I don't want to take away from those guys, but as long as my impact is there every night, I should be okay. As long as I make an all-defensive team, that means something. But Defensive Player of the Year probably be hard for me, but MVP and championship, that's the goal. I can't guard one game and not guard the next game because we playing, somebody who's not up to par. I got to be ready every night, and I'm going to take pride in that. And I told my teammates to hold me accountable, coaches included.
Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, and a title all in one season. Only Hakeem has done that. But, Perk, I think it's more the sentiment. You like hearing that from Ant?
I do, because guess what, Malika? He felt pain all this offseason from losing in the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row, losing the SGA, and then said, you know what, I know what it takes now. I have to be in the best shape, I have to add to my post game, and I have to be able to have a level of accountability to do it on both ends of the floor.
Off to the Clippers, and Ty Lue has a new strategy for James Harden.
Here, you want to kind of tone down some of his usage?
We don't want that. Yeah, we don't want that. I think, we had to, but we kind of we just had to do too much for us to be successful, to try to win games, to try to stay afloat while Kawhi was out, and so we don't want James to have to do that all year. There's going to be games he has to do that, but, I think the last 25 games of the season when Kawhi came back, I think was number 2 in offense and number 1 in defense, so we'll be able to score the basketball when everyone's healthy, and things are clicking on the right cylinder,
So Harden led the Clippers with over 35 minutes a game and 79 starts here, Bobby Marks. How can they lighten the load for him in his 17th season?
How about a pair of Chris's, Chris Paul and Chris Dunn? Chris Paul, 82 games started last year, Malika. Chris Dunn, 58. 6 out of the 7 games in the first-round series against Denver. Malika, they've got probably the deepest backcourt in the NBA. Certainly their depth is going to be their strength this year in Los Angeles.
A pair of Chris's. It sounds like Christmas for James Harden. Let's go to Mavs camp. Anthony Davis addressed his fitness.
I feel good. I'm kind of almost going to every season because I put on so much weight in the summer. And then by the time, like November comes, I'm usually like 255, 258. So I never want to come in at my playing weight because then I lose weight during the season, then I'm too small. So I try to go, I lose about 10 to 12 pounds very quickly during camp. I already lost 5 pounds. All of running and playing. So I'm never concerned about that. I feel great.
Perk, you've been in the lab this offseason. Do you take any issue with this strategy?
I do. One, because you have a rookie in Cooper Flagg, who's your #1 pick, that's coming in, and what kind of example is that to show him? 2, you're in a tough Western Conference that's loaded. 3, you was traded for an international superstar, and you are that guy on this team right now. You need to come into camp in shape. I'm very disappointed, or a little disappointed, in Anthony Davis because I thought he would come in and be on the mission this upcoming season.
Speaking of getting into shape, Zion Williamson gotten a lot of praise for his fitness this year. Check out these 2 photos. This is Media Day a year ago, and then the second photo that you see is Media Day last week. The Pelicans, they're currently in Australia. They will face some NBL teams starting a little bit later tonight. But check this out. Mic'd up moment between Jose Alvarado and Zion.
And that's never gonna happen again. But it started with you, bro. If you play like that every time, that's the whole league. That's how it starts right there.
Bobby, how crucial is this season here for Zion?
Oh, it's make or break. I mean, you look at what Zion has done since he's come into the NBA. He's only played 46% of regular season games. Has never made it to the playoffs here. I remember last March, Malika sitting in Los Angeles watching them play the Lakers, thinking this guy could be a top 10 player on the court with him and LeBron and Luka out there, how dominant he can be. But when you look at him, he is in the best shape of his career right now. His body looks terrific. But as you said, availability matters for Zion Williamson.
Perk?
Look, I believe when Zion is on the floor, when he is available, he's the second most dominant player behind Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, with that being said, I also believe that he's auditioning this season for the Pelicans to see if he is going to be that guy for the future, for as the franchise guy to lead this organization or even be a part of this organization. C.J. McCollum, he's gone. He's playing with the Wizards. Brandon Ingram was traded. He's with the Toronto Raptors. So now the keys to the car are in Zion Williamson's hands, and the ball is in his court, and he has to go out there, perform, and be available at a high level. And I agree with Bobby. If he's out there, he's available, he has the potential or could be a top 10 player in the NBA.
I just love that moment between him and Jose Alvarado, that accountability. Sometimes it takes hearing it from your teammate. You hear it a little bit differently than if folks around the league are saying it, hearing it directly from someone who's a stakeholder, like out there on the floor with you. And so I'm really hopeful that this is the season. And well, we are 19 days away from the NBA season and 2 days into training camp. The Golden State Warriors camp, it was a little bit fuller today. Look who was introduced. They officially welcomed Al Horford, their new center, to the team yesterday. He spoke for the first time about how excited he is to be on the same side of the court as Steph Curry.
I'm excited just to, to be able to be on the floor with him and not have to chase him around and try to contest him and all that. So the fact that we're on the same side, it's something that it's special for me, and I'm really going to try to take advantage and learn from him as much as I can. He sees the game in a very incredible way, and I'm just going to follow suit and really lean on him and lean on Draymond to kind of show me the way.
Can you blame Al? No one wants to have to chase around Steph Curry as a defender. Right now, welcoming in our Warriors reporter Anthony Slater, live at Chase Center with that gorgeous Bay Area view in the background. Slater, training camp, it was a little bit busier today. How are guys like Horford and Kuminga, he's back, right, acclimating to this team?
Yeah, Al Horford, like you said, did his intro presser about 20 feet to my right yesterday. He said he did not contemplate retirement this summer. He actually signed a 2-year deal I think the big thing is he's already acclimating. He was in the San Diego for the camp with Jimmy Butler. They called it a seamless fit. It's very obvious to see how he fits in this Steve Kerr system. There's no concerns there. One of the interesting things about Al Horford and what Steve Kerr's talked about how he fits into every lineup, I think it's fair to say, Jonathan Kuminga's negotiations this summer were contentious, but one of the things that both sides agreed upon was signing Al Horford would hard cap them, to this mid-level, but even the Kuminga side thought it was such a great signing because Al Horford, as a stretch center, as a 5 that can shoot the ball, is going to help every lineup, really including the lineups that have Jonathan Kuminga in it, because one of the issues for Kuminga has been a lack of space at times, and I think, this coaching staff, I know actually, is very interested to see lineups that have Horford and Kuminga in them.
Interesting. So that's something that we will certainly be keeping an eye on. There's been so much conversation about Kuminga, his role with this team, but we know, at least for now, to start the season, he is there, and they are determined to try to make the most of it because this is a group that has their eyes on a championship to maximize the end of Steph Curry. I feel like I say that all the time, maximize the end of Steph Curry. Anthony Slater, thank you so very much. The Warriors are, though, as Anthony mentioned, if Al Horford is in the starting lineup, some might call it seasoned, some might say old. On this show, we like to highlight the approach, right? With Al Horford in the fold, Golden State could start 5 players over 35 on opening night. They would be the second team to have 5 players that old at the beginning of the year since the Mavericks in 2011-2012. So Bobby, Horford, Buddy, Curry, Jimmy, Draymond, the oldest starting lineup since those Mavericks. Given that, how confident are you that this Warriors team, now that we know what their roster looks like, they can fulfill their goal here of making it all the way to an NBA championship?
Well, first put me in the category of seasoned. It's not old. I am in the camp of being seasoned here. I think, Malika, look, when you have Stephen Curry on the court, anytime you have a chance, I think we have to look at what the body of work in the second half of the season was. Last year when they made that Jimmy Butler trade, how good this team was. We don't know where they would have gone in the playoffs if Curry had stayed healthy. Could they have beaten Minnesota? And when you look at the off-season additions, you basically you add Al Horford, you lose Kevon Looney, you bring in Seth Curry, and you also bring back D'Anthony Melton and Jonathan Kuminga. So your bench, of course, gets better. So they've got a chance. Are they in Oklahoma City territory? No, but they're in the mix with the rest of the teams in the Western Conference.
Whenever you have Steph Curry on your roster, you are always in the mix. And now it's just about putting that 23-8 that we saw down the stretch of the season since they traded for Jimmy Butler, putting that record out, extrapolating it over the course of the season. The biggest thing for them is going to be, can they stay healthy? It's so important for a seasoned squad. Let's stick in the West here. Victor Wembanyama gearing up for year 3. Remember, he missed the final 29 games of last season with a blood clot in his shoulder, and he spoke about the rigorous training he went through at Media Day. Take a listen.
I can assure you nobody has trained like I did this summer, and this is my best summer so far. Like I can tell the progress is just incredible. I'm so much more under control, and my conditioning has gotten so much better, but that comes at a price, and what I've done this summer, it's world class.
That's a pretty scary thought to think about as we say hello to Michael C. Wright, who covers the San Antonio Spurs for us. Michael, what specifically has Victor done this summer? He's calling it the best one he's ever had.
Well, Malika, like he said, that deep thrombosis diagnosis, it's shocking to him. It really sort of made him take a pause and sort of put life into perspective. So going into the offseason, he was in a way sort of seeking inner peace. And to get there, he wanted to really push himself physically and mentally in ways that he never has before. And that sort of took him all over the globe. The guys in Costa Rica, Tokyo, LA, France, and then he's in China. He spends 10 days in China training with Shaolin monks. And what they're doing there, they're doing Kung Fu. They're doing meditation. They are, like, every morning he's having a vegan breakfast that consists of rice, noodles, and zucchini. Now, Victor thinks that all those things are going to help him on the floor this upcoming season. But I think one thing that doesn't get talked about enough is the fact that he went out to Houston. He trained with Hakeem Dream Olajuwon. He went out there on Dreams 400-acre ranch, and those guys got into the lab. Now, I don't want to get too deep into it, but Malika, could you imagine Victor Wembanyama doing the Dream Shake
I was gonna
with his
say.
own little twist on it.
Yeah, there's going to be a French
Yeah,
twist on the
yes.
Dream Shake. That is something that I cannot
Yes.
wait to see that deployed this upcoming season. So
Well,
Victor, he says he's coming
for sure.
back better than ever, right? As healthy as he's been, and we're so glad to hear that because we missed him on the floor down the stretch of that season, last season rather. But the Spurs aren't as healthy as they'd like to be, right, to start training camp. So what can you tell us about De'Aaron Fox and then also their number 2 overall pick, Dylan Harper?
Well, let's start with De'Aaron Fox first. Now, throughout training camp so far, he's been able to participate in everything. He'll tell you that he's ready to go. He said, hey, man, I'm running 15.3 miles per hour on the treadmill. He said, but at the same time, I don't think I'm going to be able to participate in the preseason or in the season opener because traditionally the San Antonio Spurs like to err on the side of caution when it comes to bringing guys back. So they're going to really keep a close eye on him and make sure he's 100% before they bring him back. Now, Dylan Harper, he's got that thumb injury, but he's ready to go. He's a guy right now that can do everything on the basketball court, dribble, shoot, whatever you need to do. But again, they are being cautious with him because they don't want him to get hit on that sore thumb and have an injury setback. But the plan right now is for him to play in the preseason, and he will be ready to go in that season opener on October 22nd.
Okay, so a little bit of a cautious approach here for the San Antonio Spurs before we see their
For sure.
full group out on the floor. Michael Wright, thank you so very much for your time. Victor Wembanyama is a unique singular force, though, in the NBA. The shortened start to his career, it didn't dim his light. He's the only NBA player in league history with 400 blocks, 200 three-pointers in their first 2 seasons. So, Perk, only, I don't think, is the word of the day. Do you have a word of the day on Wemby for year 3, what you're expecting for him?
Listen, I know sometimes I trip y'all out with my English, but just wait till you hear this French, okay? I do got a word of the day. Inéritable. Repeat after me. Inéritable. You know what that means?
I do not.
Unstoppable
Ooh.
in French. Inéritable. Unstoppable in French. We seen him working out with the Dream. We saw him getting some mentorship from KG. Even last season, we saw him working out with Jamal Crawford. Look, in a few years, maybe this year, he might be the best player on both sides of the floor. We know what he brings defensively and his impact. Could have won Defensive Player of the Year last year if he would have stayed healthy. But outside of that, offensively, he's going to take that leap. This young fella is a hard worker. He's shown us that since he's entered the league. He put on 12 pounds of muscle his rookie season. So the word I have to describe Victor is inéritable.
Inéritable. Perk's Parisian pronunciation guide coming to you soon. Our first NBA preseason game, it's Sunday on ESPN and the all-new ESPN app. The Warriors hosting the Lakers. It's at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. We'll be with you, WNBA Countdown rather, at 8 o'clock. Before we head to break, we have a sad update to a story we shared on this show a year ago. Former college basketball player Kyle Owens has passed away at the age of 24. Kyle gained national recognition after this incredible buzzer beater in February of 2024 that landed him on the SportsCenter top 10. And then a month later, he was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia while at UC Riverside, just a few hours before his senior night. Now, he actually played in that game despite his diagnosis. Kyle's teammates, they remember him as someone who brought energy to every practice and every game and who carried himself with humility and with strength. And even in the face of his illness, he inspired so many others through his determination and his grace. All of us here at NBA Today, we send our deepest condolences to Kyle's parents, Tonya and Keith, his brother Trevor, and all of those who love him. All your scathing comments about the W's front office.
Well, I mean, first of all, I have great respect for Fee, and I think she made a lot of very valid points. And, you know, I think what people need to understand, you know, we need great leadership in this time across all levels. This is straight up the most important moment in this league's history. Well, this league's been around for 25 plus years, and this is a moment we have to capitalize on. So that's honestly what I would say. I think there's, you know, Fee said it all with what she said, and you know, I think the points she made were very valid.
Had you heard that story from her before she said it publicly? And then have you spoken with Kathy Engelbert or heard from her at all since then?
No. You always want to become a better leader. And I think I've been a lot around a lot of really good leaders in my life. I'm trying to learn and grow every single day as a leader too, and I think for me, it is all about relationships, and that's the truth, and I know that's really hard to say in professional sports, but whether it's a relationship with your front office, whether it's a relationship with Commissioner of the League, whether it's a relationship with your teammates, like, that's the most important thing in leadership. You have to be very intentional about seeking those out, and, you know, for me, I would say the most important part of leadership, whether that's the WNBA, whether that's corporate America, I think it comes down to relationships and really caring about the people you surround yourself with.
I should have been more specific. That's what you're hoping for from the league office when you say great leadership. You're hoping for that relationship-based great leadership.
Sure.
The Hall of Famer Holly Rowe joins us now. Holly, what did you make of Caitlin's exit interview comments?
Well, I think it's interesting. She backed up Napheesa Collier. It shows just how unified and connected the women of the WNBA are, and that they are joined in unity in their message back to the WNBA leadership. I do think it's a problem that Kathy Engelbert's first phone call after Napheesa's comments wasn't to Caitlin Clark. I think what we are hearing across the board is players want to feel more connected with the league office, Kathy Engelbert. In fairness, Kathy has done a phenomenal job from a financial standpoint. The valuations of teams, the media rights deal, new arena deals, all of this is really good right now. Kathy has done a great job from a business standpoint. But she has got to listen to the players in the league right now that they feel like there is leadership lacking from a relationship standpoint and a true care about the health and safety of players. I do think another important takeaway today from Caitlin Clark was her health and how she is trying to fight to get back on the court. I think it's worth noting, Malika, that the Indiana Fever have just broken ground on a $78 million sports performance complex that is going to open in 2027. And people I've spoken to around the Fever during these exit interviews say that they are looking at their player performance umbrella, that they are going to bring in new people to be working players out, having good strength and conditioning practices and athletic training practices. So Caitlin Clark with a lot to say today in her exit interview about the leadership of the league, but also the leadership from her of getting back on the court and having one of the best, brightest stars have her health intact and really invested in the offseason.
Yeah, I think that's such an important part of all of this as well. Her saying that really in the last couple of weeks, she's turned a corner from where she felt she was previously. Holly, I know that the league and the players, they're in the middle of a really tense negotiation, and we heard Sophie Cunningham put that very, very specifically. But how surprised are you by the lack of communication right now, it seems like, between the two sides?
Yeah, I was trying to really think this through and be fair about it. You know, you're in a CBA negotiation, so maybe leadership is not going to be having personal one-on-one conversations with players in the middle of a negotiation. But I think what is coming to light in the last couple of days, I was very bothered by Elena Deladon's comments on social media that she retired and has never heard from Kathy Engelbert. That can't happen. So we have got to make sure that the commissioner and the league front office is listening to the players, that they need more and want more communication. That's something easy to fix. We shouldn't have to be talking about that. That is an easy fix at a league level.
This is a conversation that's going to be extending over the next couple of weeks. You just heard asking Caitlin those questions was Alexa Philippou, our WNBA insider who joins us now. Alexa, what was your takeaway from Caitlin's comments there?
Yeah, Malika, well, I know a lot of people were waiting since Napheesa Collier's exit interview to hear from Caitlin Clark herself, and there might have been some, too, that really wanted her to go further than she did, maybe be more pointed than she was. But I think it's important to keep in mind that that's not really her style. It really hasn't been. But still, we can listen carefully to what she said, and I still think it's important what she stressed. You had an exchange with her where you asked about what she identifies as good in leadership, and she talked about relationships. She talked about seeking those out, being intentional in that regard, and really looking to understand people. And keeping that in mind and knowing that she told me that she hasn't heard from Kathy Engelbert, I think, says a lot about what she values in the leadership, not just, when it comes to, within the Indiana Fever organization, but within the context of the league. And so the fact that, that's something that she really values, and we've heard also from other players who said they haven't heard from leadership, it seems like there's a little bit of a common thread that's emerging as we've heard more and more players speak out over the past few days.
Yeah, a sentiment we've heard from players repeatedly in the last couple of days is the need for, quote, great leadership. So I asked Caitlin what great leadership actually looks like, and she was diplomatic. I want to read her comments directly. She said when you're talking about the NBA or when you're talking about corporate America, right, anywhere, she says relationships and really caring about the people you surround yourself with is what's important. That's what she told me. Now, Clark's teammate, Sophie Cunningham, was a little bit more direct in her response to Kathy Englebert's leadership. Take a listen.
I'm just tired of our league. They need to step up and be better. Our leadership from top to bottom needs to be held accountable. I think that there are a lot of people in the position of powers in the WNBA who they might be really great business people, but they don't know about basketball, and that's got to change. Not really a fan of our leadership in the W. I just think they're failing us as a league, definitely failing us as players. And, you know, everything Nafisa said, we all feel that way, and we're all going to back her, and I think it's pretty strong coming from her. I think a lot of us have been saying that, but when it comes from someone to that caliber of a player, that we're being serious. And so my comment on that, I think it's pretty shameful that she always makes it about her, Kathy, when it should have nothing to do with her.
All right, Alexa, there was a lot there and in the rest of Sophie Cunningham's press conference, but what was the most important takeaway?
Yeah, well, I think the takeaway was that she just was really echoing a lot of these really pointed comments that we've heard this week from players and directly saying that leadership has failed. And she meant that in part, she was talking too about the context of this whole officiating conversation we've had around the league in recent weeks. But also she was bringing it up in the context of CBA negotiations, which we have to remember is happening amid all of what we're talking about with both the finals and the playoffs and obviously the offseason that's about to go underway. Now, Sophie Cunningham actually brought up the possibility of a work stoppage, and I want to quote actually what she said. She said, quote, "I promise you that we are not going to play until they give us what we deserve." And that's kind of where it's headed, unfortunately, referring to a potential work stoppage. And so I have not heard many players speak that directly about that as a real possibility. So that really stuck out to me. And she also was able to say that there is a call that's going to be happening today with WNBA players to get an update on negotiations, where things stand with the CBA talks. But this, again, was a really searing critique from yet another player who had a lot of issues with league leadership and where things stand.
And that's really important, right? We have not heard very many players so directly say that the way things are trending right now, if something does not change, is a work stoppage, which Sophie Cunningham said would not be good for the league. It doesn't match with this amazing season that we have just watched and witnessed. Alexa, thank you.